DAZN is the home of boxing, with over 150 live fights a year.
It's over! There's no way back from this, surely!
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
How do you like it? How do you like it?
That is unbelievable.
These guys will be legends in their own country, but also in the international basketball world forever.
That is what sport means. That is what the EuroLeague trophy means.
Are you not entertained?
I'm not supposed to be cheering, but this is X Series. I can do whatever I want.
Everything is difficult in this life, so still you need to be on it.
It all comes down to tonight. Don't miss the biggest night in MMA. PFL is more than a fight.
Catching up on any NFL game is easier than ever before.
Looking to the end zone for the win! Oh my gosh, one of the great games you'll ever see.
The competition is back, and the UEFA Women's Champions League looks set to be bigger and better than ever before.
It's their time, a night to remember.
The following program is recommended for those 16 and over, as it contains sporting violence, possible bad language, and flashing imagery.
Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of Ariel and Ade right here on DAZN, the undisputed global home of boxing. A massive weekend has come and gone. One that started right here in New York City. We have a lot to discuss, a lot to get into on today's program, a lot to discuss as far as this weekend is concerned as well. And we are also very happy and proud to be sponsored once again by Final Destination Bloodlines, in theaters worldwide on the 16th of May. I know producer extraordinaire New York Rick has already bought his tickets. He's the biggest Final Destination fan on the planet. He is excited. He is pumped. We are happy to have them on board. Thank you very much to them for their support. I was in New York. Ariel Oladipo was overseas in Riyadh checking out the sights and sounds. He's back home in London. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Good. I'm happy. I'm ready to go. As you say, loads to talk about on today. Loads to talk about on today's show. So I'm just ready to get straight to it. Can we just get straight to it, please?
Let's get straight into it. We're going to talk about Times Square. We're going to talk about Riyadh. We're going to talk about Las Vegas and the Monster. We're going to get into Nottingham this weekend. So much to get into. But as we sit here today on the 6th of May, 2025, Ade, the fight of the year, the story of the year, the scene of the year, God, it might be the fight of the century by the time it's all said and done. Movies will be made, documentaries will be made about what transpired a little over a week ago in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It was the fight that we had been talking about for about 3 years. It was the bloodline story that we had been talking about for decades, right? Dating back to their fathers going toe-to-toe twice. It all played out even better than we could have all imagined. It was, if you thought this past weekend was maybe not the best of boxing, that was the very best of boxing. And one half of that equation, one half of the reason why we speak so glowingly of it, we speak so highly of it, we will remember it so fondly, is because of our guest at this time. Let's not make him wait any longer. He is the destroyer. He is the one and only Connor Ben, who is so very kind to join us right here at the top of the show. Hello, Connor. How are you? Thank you so much for doing this. And I know you've been traveling all over the world. I know you're very tired. We appreciate it, and we won't keep you very long, but very, very excited to have you on the program.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Pleasure to be on.
So let's get right into it. You know, I had the pleasure of seeing you in Times Square. You were sitting there ringside watching all the activities. And I remember as I walked away thinking, I wonder how Connor is handling all of this, because the first thing I said to you was congratulations. And I was offering so much praise. But I do know that, you know, the man that I saw at the post-fight press conference was gutted, was heartbroken. That was your first pro loss. It was a loss that meant a lot to you and your family, your father, of course. It was a huge fight. And so you have everyone like myself coming up to you and showering you with praise and congratulating you. But in the end, you're not in this for moral victories. And so how are you dealing with that sort of juxtaposition of feelings? The praise that you're receiving, but ultimately you came there to win. You wanted that W.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's hard. It's heartbreaking. I mean, I don't work hard to lose. I don't sacrifice time with my family to lose, you know. And it has been challenging, of course. I mean, when I think about it. But then what's warming is people going up to me saying, "We thought you just nicked it. We thought you won." And you know, even being able to give the public that sort of level of entertainment. You know, that makes me proud, because at the end of the day, there's so many fighters out there who don't entertain and don't take that responsibility on them to entertain. You know, when ultimately I'd rather win, I'd rather lose an exciting fight than win a boring fight, because then I sit there and I go, well, did you actually even win? You know, and that's my sort of mindset. Is ultimately it's entertainment business, and you know, jumping up 2 weights and challenging Chris is a great experience. And you know, no doubt, I thought I had won the fight. I thought I just nicked it, but it was my fault for letting it get that close.
Perhaps you just alluded to your answer here, but I'm just curious, because in the post-fight press conference, you were also asked about what you were proud of, and you really offered nothing. You were still so very disappointed. Can you now, some days removed, I know it hasn't been months, look back and say, yeah, I was proud of the way I fought on that night?
I haven't watched it back yet fully.
Wow.
So yeah, I've got to build up the courage to watch it back, because I know there's loads of mistakes that I made and loads of things I didn't do in there, which I know I should have done. And I know I'll just be kicking myself. So I've got to build up the courage to watch it back. What I am happy about is the fact that this will go down as a British classic. This will go down as, you know, one of them great fights that's a must watch. But also your stocks go up when you're in fights like that. Ultimately, giving people value for money. People don't want to watch fighters who go in there to nick the fight, or to just win a round, or just to get by. You know, it was there was a lot on the line. So, you know, we fought with our hearts in there.
Please, Connor, when you can, watch it back. I messaged you straight away saying that's one of the greatest fights I've ever seen. And I've seen hundreds of fights, thousands of fights. I've been ringside and commented and presented fights. That's one of the best fights I've seen for a long time. What was the moment like? You've not fought in something that big, right? Many fighters don't get the chance to fight in stadiums, especially sold-out stadiums. What was that moment like when you're making that ring walk with your dad, with Eddie, the noise of the crowd? Can you sum that moment up for us?
I can't really explain it to you, because, you know, everyone knows what I've been through for the past 2.5 years. I hadn't fought in England for 3 years. So for me to get to that moment was a proud moment, as in, you made it, Connor. You know, you made it through. And, you know, I've been through a lot. I've been through hell and back, and I didn't quite know, or you don't know how much life has taken out of you when you go through things like that. And well, clearly it's not taken a lot, but you know, it is in the back of your head. You know, what have I got left in me? And you know, I've no doubt got that fire, and no doubt still got that ambition and that drive to be the best fighter I can possibly be. And yeah, no, I was excited. I was excited, nervous, of course, not because of Chris, but because of the occasion, and just wanted to perform and deliver to the public. You know, they've been waiting for the fight for 3 years, and I just wanted to live up to expectation.
It exceeded expectations. And I don't normally say that. There were so many great moments on the night, Connor, but I feel like one of the best moments was when Chris Eubanks Sr. sort of exits the car and you and your dad are looking at it on the screen. And I remember thinking, this is like the WWE. This is just extraordinary. What's going through your mind and your dad's mind when you see Chris Eubanks Sr. and Jr. sort of coming out the lift and there's a camera on you guys watching them?
Yeah, I mean, you can't see the facial expression, but I was so happy he turned up because it got to the stage where at the first press conference, I was like, yeah, your dad don't like you. I still think that's the case. And, you know, I don't like you, Chris. Do you know what I mean? So, but then it got to a stage where the second press conference where it was like a lot of personal things were said and you could clearly see there was a problem there where it's a topic that I didn't really want to talk about. It was a topic that I got asked about, and I had to constantly say, it's really not my place to talk about it. Do you know what I mean? Don't be asking me them questions because I'm not getting into that. There's levels you just don't go to. And for me, when I saw how personal it was and what was being said, I felt for Chris. So for me, seeing him there, I was over the moon because it wouldn't have been the same without Senior turning up. My dad's forever in my corner. That goes without saying. My dad's there. He's my shadow. But to see Senior, if the fight has mended their relationship, that money can't buy that.
He did say in the aftermath, Senior did, I was always going to be here. And I'm not sure if any of us believe him. I mean, 10 days prior, he was calling his son a disgrace. If, in fact, that was always the plan, he worked all of us. Did you have any sort of hint, inclination, heads up that he was showing up on the night? Did you know the whole time as well?
Yeah, there was whispers, but I never actually thought he'd turn up. Whatever it is, there's obviously the issue's a lot deeper than boxing.
Yeah,
so it's not really again something that I feel comfortable talking about. I pray that it's genuine, and their relationship prospers. But whether that's because of our fight, but there is I can't help but think or know that Junior had that little boy in him feeling, I'm so happy my dad's here to see what I've achieved.
Yeah.
I just can't not see it, because when I had done the ring walk and I looked to my dad, the first thing I said to my dad was, I love you, man. Because I wanted him to do the ring walk with me. I didn't even know Senior was going to be there and do the ring walk with Chris, but my dad was always going to do the ring walk with me. And I wanted to share that moment with my dad, because this is you, Dad. This is like, this is, the foundations you laid. And that's, my dad was going to do the walk with me regardless whether Senior was there. It turned out perfectly well. It turned out like a story, a movie, with Senior turning up. But yeah, no doubt that, that little boy in Junior was proud to have his dad there in that moment.
Not to skip over the fight, but just sticking with your father's theme, in the aftermath, what kind of words did he share with you? What did he say in the locker room? I know it was probably very hectic, but do you remember anything that he said to you after the fight?
No, I don't. But I remember what my dad said to me in the. Me and my dad have the greatest relationship when we have we have banter, and we were in the sauna in my house, and bearing in mind I'm like upset and that, but my dad's my dad, and we rub salt in each other's wounds. And we got into like a little argument over, can't remember what it was in the sauna, like just like, Dad, why'd you keep leaving the door open, like the cold air comes in? and then he's gone, shut up, you loser.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I looked at him, I went, but he mumbled it under his breath. I went, what'd you say? You heard, and he's gone, you heard me. And I thought, I just started laughing because I was just like, of course you would do that. Because I've been giving him stick for not winning the first fight and then having a draw in the second fight and having to leave his dirty laundry to me. So, it was only right to give it to me back.
I feel like in fights of that magnitude and fights that play out like that, there are no losers. Obviously, you're going to feel different, Connor. But the reception that you got after the fight, does that kind of heal the wound a little bit? Especially the reception in America, like seeing the love out there. And I think us Brits, we're never quite sure how Americans are going to receive us, right? But the love you got in New York and in Miami, I saw that at the F1. Does that kind of make you feel like, okay, I do feel okay even in a defeat?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one because, oh man, it's hard because losing, it's not a nice feeling. And, you know, I do everything I can to not lose. And especially when I think I just nicked the fight, it's like 116, 112, it was bothering, of course, because even if I had won the last 2 rounds, I still wouldn't have won the fight, you know. So it was bothering for me, and I still obviously still not watched it back. But when you hear people coming up to you almost every day going, "Yeah, we thought you won the fight," you know, no way, you know, he won that by 4 rounds. No way he won the fight, you know. So once I watched it back, I'll probably be able to process everything a lot better. But the amount of love I've been shown is. I've probably never been shown this amount of love and admiration my whole career. I mean, to get mobbed in America, you're talking, you know, Americans, you know, just the casual civilian, you know, walking down the street in New York and in Miami. It's a surreal feeling. It's something you never really get used to because ultimately I'm a fighter, and you know, I fight with my heart on my sleeve, and you know, I'm just so happy I can give the public, you know, that sort of entertainment, because the reality is people only remember how you made them feel when they watch you fight.
Yeah.
You know, and I want people to be on the edge of their seats. I want people to be like, we have to tune into Conor Benn's fight, irrelevant of who I'm fighting, because, you know, they know it's either going to be a fight or someone's getting laid out. You know, I'd rather, as I said, lose an exciting fight than win a boring fight.
Yeah, one of the things that I saw from the very beginning, as soon as the referee called you both to the center, was the size difference. Like, there's been a lot of talk about you jumping up a couple of weight classes, and I'm like, oh, actually, you know, Chris isn't that big, and Conor is actually now a lot thicker. I couldn't believe how much bigger he was than you. Was you surprised just how much bigger he was than you on the night?
I don't really look at anybody and go, oh, you know, he looks pretty big. You know, I'm just a fighter. You know,
But did you feel it, Conor, when he had it on the ropes? Did you feel it at all? Like the extra weight of him?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I could feel it in the fight. Like, I could feel it. It's obviously we're in physical sport. I could feel the weight, but it's nothing new. I've been sparring big guys, so it's a great challenge. I love the challenge. I love the thrill, the excitement of, you know, having to perform, you know, and use different attributes with a guy that's, you know, 2 weights bigger and a lot bigger on the night. He was a lot bigger in there. Watching the footage back, as in the highlights, I go, oh wow, he's that much bigger. Because I don't feel it. I don't see it in there. You know, he's just another man to me. But then when you watch the highlights back, and you go, oh mate, he's a lot bigger in size than me. But then again, I am a welterweight. You know, I think I went into the ring on fight night 3 pounds over 160.
Wow.
You know, so yeah, so I'm definitely not a 160 fighter, but ultimately I'll go in there and give it to whoever wants it.
By the way, it's so good. I mean, just watching those highlights in that like 10-second clip, we saw more action than we did in 2 nights of boxing over the weekend. And you keep alluding to that. And I think that's what you're doing, right? You were sitting there and you watch some great fighters have historically boring fights. And I say this just looking at the stats. The numbers of punches thrown, not landed, historically bad. So I wonder, when you're sitting there watching that after the war that you just had 6 days prior, what is going through your mind as you're watching those fights in Times Square?
I'm watching him and I'm a little bit confused. Like, do you want to be a fighter? Or I'm so confused as to what you're trying to do here. I think fighters are so careful about protecting their own, or they just don't want to take no chances. But the reality is, you know, you go swimming, you get wet, take chances, because now no one's going to want to watch a Haney fight or a Garcia fight. You know, it's the entertainment business. And I want to entertain. I put that pressure on myself to entertain, because my dad was the ultimate, you know, entertainer. So when I go in there, I do fight with my heart on my sleeve, and it's the only way I know how to fight. I'll never go into a fight, even again jumping up 2 weight divisions and go, oh, what if I throw a shot and he catches me? If he catches me, so what? So what? I'll catch him again. I'll catch him harder. And that's my sort of mentality. And if you watch the replay on some of the highlights, I've thrown a shot, he's hit me back, and I've still followed through with my own shot. And yeah, I guess I have confidence in my durability. I have confidence in my stamina. I have confidence in my power. My resilience. I'm not fussed. Yeah, he was bigger on the night, but I'm not over too. I'm not concerned in the slightest. If you want to have a fight, let's have a fight and let's meet in the middle. That 18-foot ring was the only one I requested. The only demand I requested was an 18-foot ring. But everybody's like just scared to have a fight. This is what we do. No.
By the way, day before the fight, he has trouble making weight. At any point, were you afraid that the fight would get canceled?
Not at all. He's a drama queen. You think some people are having to do that same weight cut for 10 grand. So like, he's made this weight his whole career, and I'm not concerned. It's all a stunt. It's all a play. That's all it is. You got to think people are doing that weight cuts for not even a fraction of the money that he's getting.
A lot of people have asked me about Conor going back down to 147. And prior to seeing you at the official weigh-in, I was like, Conor ain't making 147 again. And then when I saw you hit 156 and you looked really healthy and your skin was glowing, I was like, Conor can make 147. Yeah. I'm desperate to see you get in the mix with those Americans that we saw on Friday, because I think you give them hell. Honestly, I think you give them fits, because you'll make them fight. And you've got options, Conor. You got Barrios, you got the Eubank rematch, Ryan, Devon, Teofimo. So you got so many dance partners. Of all those options, which one is it you want next? Is it the Eubank rematch to kind of get that get back, or is it still a case of that?
Yeah, it's definitely Eubank, because if I don't do Eubank next, that ship sailed. So it has to be Eubank next. If it's not Eubank, then that's that chapter closed. Then I drop down to 147, and I would prefer Haney out of a lot of them, because. But then again, as I said, I don't fancy catching a lawsuit, so I'll probably give that a swerve. I've gone for enough court cases as it is.
Haney's a great one. And look, they're all great matchups, and look, you put yourself in that position. So, look, final one for me. Congratulations. Look, the last 2.5 years have been tough. And although you didn't get the victory you wanted, I think you've come out a champion in that fight. And I think the respect you've got now from the British public, which was always going to be tough, but the US public as well now, I think it's fully deserved. So look, enjoy your spoils, and I can't wait to see you back in the ring again. Like, I'm itching, especially considering what we saw over the weekend. I'm itching for a Conor Benn fight again, because what I saw on the weekend kind of disappointed me.
I'm ready to go. I was ready to jump in. If there had been someone that pulled out an injury, I would have been ready to fight Friday. So, fingers crossed, we're working on a date now. I know September's in talks, but the reality is I'm ready to go August. I'm ready. I've stayed in the gym. While Eubanks was in hospital being a drama queen, I was back in the gym on the treadmill, training. So I think I've got a real fire in me to just go out and continue to prove. You got to remember that was 14 months out of the ring. A lot of nerves, a lot of, I can't say ring rust, but there's a lot of things I would have done and should have done that I didn't do. And it's the only thing I can put it down to. So, I'm excited to just get straight back out and keep active and get momentum.
And just to be clear, before we let you go, how far along are we in the rematch talks? Like, if you were to look in your crystal ball, do you think this happens September, back at Tottenham? Is he on board, the weight, all that stuff? What could you tell us about how far along we are?
As far as I'm aware, the contracts have already been signed.
Okay, so is there a date attached?
I believe so.
Can you tell us the date?
But I'm here in September.
Same spot, Tottenham Hotspur?
potentially.
Okay.
Or Wembley maybe.
I think it deserves the bigger stadium. And finally, will you roll up with that? That new Rolls? Will you pull up? I mean, I saw that thing. It's good to be the king.
What?
Come on.
Do you know what?
Look at that.
Do you know what? So, aside from the fight and the night and the occasion, this was the second happiest moment of my year. Was me buying this, knowing that's just because he was 0.05 over.
Oh my God.
0.05 over. He paid for my private jet and he also paid for my Rolls Royce, full spec daddy. So cheers, Chris. I appreciate you, mate. You're a diamond.
Love
Miss
it.
Weight again, will you?
Unbelievable. Connor, congratulations on an unbelievable performance. I'll say it again. Inspiring stuff. I just want to sit back and rewatch those highlights. It was so damn good. Hopefully we get to see it again. Hopefully you are proud and you are being showered with that pride that you deserve, that love, that praise. And thanks for doing this. Most importantly, I know you've been traveling a lot, so we appreciate you staying up.
Pleasure. Thank you, guys.
All the best. There he is, the great Connor Ben, the Destroyer, joining us. What a parting shot that is, by the way. It's funny. In the immediate aftermath, you'll see a lot of respect. But now, as time goes on, crybaby, thanks for paying. It's like we're revving it back up, right? In hopes of a rematch.
Dude, he's the perfect salesman. And he understands it as well. It's the entertainment business, and he knows it. Like, he's there, he's sitting down in a robe. He's just the perfect salesman, and we need more guys like this. But, and this is the most important part, he gets in the ring and he delivers. So you can do all that. You can do all the stuff that Connor does. Will you get in the ring and deliver? And he delivers and then some. So, look, I'm happy he's going to get all the spoils. I'm happy the love that he's getting stateside. I'm happy to see there's a bit of a U-turn over here as well.
I was going to ask you about that. Have you sensed that? Have you felt the U-turn?
I do.
Okay.
I have sensed it. It's coming. There's certain people you speak to, like little pockets of people. You go on forums over here. You go into small YouTube channels. I'm starting to see comments about him being a lot more positive. So, and I think they're like that. And also, I think the Brits want to get behind someone that could potentially go to America and fight some of the big boys over there as well. And I think they look at Connor as maybe the guy that can do that. So I think now, slowly but surely, he's getting the respect back from the British public. And if he gets that back, then Eddie's got a superstar on his hands.
By the way, there is prestige attached to Wembley. That is your national stadium, right? Does this one the rematch have to be at Wembley, or do you think 2-fight deal, go back to the same spot? And maybe that was already agreed upon, but Wembley is bigger, right? That's like 80 to 90,000.
Yeah, you're right. It's 90,000. And with floor seats, you're probably looking at around 95, maybe similar to the same number that was there for AJ versus Daniel Dubois. I prefer the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as a stadium. It's a better stadium. Sort of transport links are maybe the same, but just in terms of the overall look of it, I think it's a lot better. But it's an extra 30,000. And if you can sell an extra 30,000 tickets, then you're right. You go to the National Stadium. But the idea of another stadium fight in the UK, I mean, British boxing right now is flying. So if he's right about September, I mean, 2 months prior to that, you get Daniel Dubois Usyk. So it's stadium. And I still harbor hopes of AJ versus Fury. So who knows?
Wow.
Maybe another stadium fight to end the year.
My God. You guys could potentially have 4 stadium shows in 2025 if that happens by the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
With them being the first, and then Dubois Usyk, and then the rematch, and then a potential AJ versus Fury fight.
There's another one as well. Let's not forget Fabio Wardley's fighting at Portman Road.
Oh,
yes,
that's right.
Stadium.
Ipswich.
That's a 35,000. Yeah, so there's another one as well. So
not against Terrell Miller,
baby. We're taking over.
Yeah, and Lee Wood should be fighting at the world famous City Ground this weekend. Unfortunately, for some bizarre reason, he continues to be denied. But yeah, I mean, there's so many great options. So you guys are spoiled these days. Let us talk about this weekend. I'm itching to get into this conversation with you because I had the great pleasure and privilege of attending the Times Square card, and I stress that because I know a lot of people didn't get that pleasure and privilege. It was not an event where you could go up and buy tickets. You couldn't go online, Ticketmaster. You couldn't go to a will call. You had to be invited or be media. And it was a very unique experience that day. I'll tell you a little bit about it because if you walk to Times Square, as I did, from the Upper East Side, if you didn't know what was going on, you wouldn't even know if you didn't really pay attention that there was a major boxing event happening. It was tucked away. Wow. If you've ever been to Times Square, there's, and this is the shot of me sitting ringside, taking it all in, trying to just show that obviously we are in Times Square. But if you just continue to walk down the street, it was from where I was walking, it was to the right next to the NYPD precinct. And it was sort of tucked away in this little nook over there. And so there were a ton of tourists. It was a very busy, beautiful day in New York City. And obviously, you'll see the scoreboard at the top and you'll see the Ring Magazine logos, but they had it tucked away. I think some people thought that it would be smack dab in the middle of Times Square, just like New Year's Eve, and the world would be able to converge upon the ring and witness some of the greatest fighters in the world go toe-to-toe. It wasn't quite that. I asked around. I actually asked some of the cops who were there, security, asking why it was like this. Some were lamenting the fact that there were high walls surrounding, the enclosed area where some 300 or so people were in attendance. And they said it was simply, part of the deal. Because of the traffic, it's so busy, you can't have these fights happening, out in the open because it could lead to distractions and, maybe accidents. And so they had it tucked away. And so you're in there. And there was somewhat of like an eerie feeling because you're in Times Square. I see the signs, I see the billboards, I see everything, but it was so quiet. It just the occasional like car horn, ambulance, subway from afar, but that was it. You didn't hear anyone talking. And I thought as I'm watching the screen, like it looks cool with the drones and whatnot, but I wondered how the fighters would respond to that atmosphere, because it reminded me a little bit of the Apex in the UFC, which is a very sort of enclosed, somewhat hollow atmosphere. And we heard Ryan Garcia afterwards, talk about it. It was a Herculean task to pull it off. Everyone deserves a lot of credit, production-wise, security-wise, logistics-wise. I can't even imagine what went into doing this. A scene, people were coming up to me talking about, oh my God, Times Square, what's going on? Who's fighting? How are they doing this? What's going on? Like everyone was very captivated by it. But in the end, Ade, and then I'll pass the baton to you, my lesson from Friday, the lesson that I learned as we saw Ryan Garcia lose to Rolly Romero in a huge surprise, as we saw Devin Haney kind of fight a ho-hum fight against Jose Ramirez, and as we saw Teofimo Lopez beat Arnold Barbosa Jr., it's that, yes, these moments and these scenes are great, and there's a lot of credit that needs to be shared in terms of putting on these events, because it's making boxing very relevant and exciting to be a part of and to watch. But when you are setting things up like, hey, you fight this fight and then you got another big fight and potentially a bigger fight with a bigger payday down the line, there is nothing for the fighters to risk. It's not worth risking because hey, I just need to get the W and then I'll move on to the bigger payday down the line. That's part of the reason why I wanted to see Garcia versus Haney on Friday of last week. And I think we saw the same thing with Canelo and Skull. Canelo knew that Crawford was there. He knew that there was a deal done for September 12th. Why risk? Why go toe-to-toe? Why do it? And then you juxtapose that with Ben and Eubank. They knew, hey, win or lose, there's a rematch. Go for broke. I'm still getting it. And so you see the difference in mentality. And so Conor was 100% right. I think part of the problem wasn't the atmosphere. It wasn't the fact that there weren't 1,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 people there. It was the fact that Garcia and Haney knew that there was a bigger fight down the line and they didn't want to take any risks. And Canelo knew the same on Saturday, and that's why we got those performances.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's quite a few things to take away from what you said. And firstly, in terms of how it looked visually, I was expecting something different. I remember there was an image that was going around as to what it would look like. So I thought there was going to be a ring slap bang in the middle of Times Square. I don't know why I thought this, and maybe this is my own fault for thinking this was how it was going to look. And yes, you would have sort of a row of VVIPs, and then I thought it'd be a case of just fans spilling around. So if you just walked on Times Square and you were there, fortunate enough to see Ryan Garcia, like, oh my God, there's Ryan. That's why I kind of thought what was going to happen. And then I saw these massive sort of red sort of sides put up so fans couldn't see. I was like, well, one second, that kind of takes away from it. You need the fans. The fans are the most important sort of equation in this, because the fighters are going to feed off the fans. If they don't hear the fans, it's almost going to be like fighting during COVID times. And during COVID times, we actually saw quite a few upsets. Fighters don't like that. Regardless of the amount of money coming into their pocket, fighters feed off the fans. Me and you were fortunate enough to be at the Barclays when Devin and Ryan first fought. And the noise generated in that building for their first fight was incredible. So, it didn't quite look how I thought it was going to look. But again, this was such a task to pull off. So I've got to applaud them just for getting it in Times Square, because that in itself is a success. As for the fighters, I can't tell you how angry I am with all the fighters. And regardless of the fact that it's almost semi-finals and they're still going to get paid to have bigger fights after. I think they all just disappointed. It was so disappointing. I was almost angry at some of their performances. Like Ryan's performance, I can't explain it. I did say to you last week when we spoke about Ryan, I said I still need, and I think we were very like, it's good to see Ryan in a happy mood. And I was like, oh no, I need to see a bit of mad Ryan. I need to see an angry Ryan because I don't know if this Ryan can perform like this. And some people took it the wrong way. I don't want him to go crazy, but I still don't think he can go from how he was against Devon last year to how he is now. It's almost a different person. Devon still looks shook. I don't know if that's the right word. There's something missing with Devon. And I don't think it's just because he knows he's got a Ryan fight. I still think he's got the scars of what happened to him 12 months ago. And I guess Tio was the only one that came out of any sort of credit. Barboza seemed to shrink in the occasion as well. So, look, none of the fights delivered, which is a big disappointment. So you can put on the greatest event in the world. Ultimately, it's down to the fighters to deliver. And all the fighters seem to not care. The hunger didn't seem to be there. The desire didn't seem to be there. And you know what it is for me? And I said this to someone today. I love skillful fighters. Like I've got a big, like Dimitri Bivol canvas behind me. So I love skillful, but ultimately, I like to see a bit of violence.
Yeah.
And I think most people that tune in for boxing like to see a bit of violence. We like to see people go at it toe to toe, which is why we love the Serrano-Taylor fights, which is why we love the Ben Eubank fight, which is why Fraser Clark versus Fabio Wardley last year was fight of the year. Not necessarily because of skill, because we just like to see people go at it. And I am not fulfilled because, unfortunately, with the 3 fights that we saw, or at least the 3 main events we saw, there was no violence. And that just left me feeling empty.
I mean, look at this. This is from our friend Dan Canobio. Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez, Ryan Garcia, Rolly Romero ranked 3rd and 5th on the list of least combined punches thrown in a 12-round fight in the 40-plus years of CompuBox. And it happened on the same night. I mean, when you actually think about that, it's actually absurd. And then when you throw Canelo and Skull and how historically bad that was as well, look at this. Fewest combined punches thrown in a 12-round fight. Not landed, thrown. Canelo Skull, number 1, 445. Garcia, Romero, 490. Haney, Ramirez, that's a typo, 499. That's absurd. 3 out of the 5 fights in a 24-hour span. The good folks at Most Valuable Promotions, they got their licks in. They were having a field day with all this. I don't know if you saw any of their content. Look at this. Punches landed over the weekend. Lopez, 127. Garcia, 66. Haney, 70. Canelo, 56. That's 319 combined. Amanda Serrano in a 10-round with 2-minute rounds fight back in November against the great Katie Taylor, 324. Obviously, everything's there, but like that putting that in perspective is crazy when you think of it that way.
Especially when you put it into perspective of who Amanda was fighting.
Yeah,
Amanda was fighting no slug. Amanda's fighting arguably the greatest female fight we've ever seen, and she throws more than them combined.
Also, 2-minute rounds versus 3-minute rounds, 10 rounds versus 12 rounds. It's the
money they're getting.
Yeah.
I think it's a point to bring that up. Like these guys are getting paid well. I've always said, look, if you know your worth as a fighter, go and get paid. It's the most dangerous sport in the world as far as I'm concerned. But if you're getting paid, like work for your money. Like what are we doing? Like it's like if I'm Turkey, I'm so upset right now. Like I'm paying you guys. Like I'm paying you guys. You guys are getting dates. I'm putting on great shows for you guys. At least give me something for the money I'm paying you. And they gave nothing. Honestly, they gave nothing.
There it is. Devin Haney has thrown 438 punches over his last 24 rounds. That's obviously dating back to the Ryan Garcia fight. Amanda Serrano threw 450 punches in the final 5 rounds versus Katie Taylor in 2-minute rounds. I mean, it's a wild thing. We focus on Garcia because obviously he's the one who slipped. At least Haney won, Teofimo won, Canelo won. Garcia kind of messed it all up with his performance. Getting dropped in the second round was shocking by Rolly Romero. They've had a history. They've sparred before, but I think everyone thought coming off that performance about a year ago that he would smoke Rolly Romero. And in fact, he was a massive favorite going into the fight. And now not only does he have to deal with the likes of you and I saying like, oh, maybe it's better when he's crazy. unfortunately, he has to deal with this. People are saying, hey, you look different when you're not on PEDs. You fight different when you're not on PEDs. To have that performance and then get accused of PEDs when you're fighting Devin Haney, and then to come back saying you're all clean and everything's good, and then have that performance, the one that he had on Friday, it raises some questions. It reminds me of John Jones. John Jones, had his issues. He comes back, and against Ovince St. Preux, he did not look good. He didn't look good. And so people start questioning, like, okay, what's going on here? What's happening? And it might be a total coincidence. It might be the fact that when he is trained by Derek James, he just isn't at his best. I don't know. I was very excited when he went with Eddie Reynoso. I thought that would be great for Ryan Garcia. And then I remember the performance against Oscar Duarte, the first one with James, and it was weird, and this one was weird as well. Maybe they just don't click. I don't know. And maybe the reason why he wasn't with Reynoso was because he knew that Reynoso would be in Riyadh with his guy, Canelo Alvarez. We'll have to ask him that question. But it was just off. Like he just never got going. And even in the final 2 rounds, you were like, okay, what's going on? Like, are you gonna step on the gas pedal here? And there was nothing there.
Nothing there at all. And look, fight fans have the right to jump to those conclusions and those assumptions. They've got their right. One fight I thought he looked physically a bit bigger against Devin last time out. Certainly faster, more aggressive, and those things weren't there this time. So fight fans are right and look, they probably come into the wrong conclusion, but they're right to come to that conclusion. And the scariest thing about that performance was he got put down in the second round. So that's early. So you've still got so much time to make it up, and there was no want to make it up. There was no desire again, this is from me watching it, no desire to make it up. And I'm like, okay, dude, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Is it because it doesn't matter because, as you say, there's a fight promise with Devin Haney where he's going to get paid so much money, and that's already there. Win or lose, it's there. Is that the reason? I don't know, but ultimately, it was just a bad Friday for boxing. Really bad. And then you're kind of like, okay, it doesn't matter because we're going to get some good action on Saturday. And that didn't happen.
Okay, before we move along to Saturday, great comment here. We're live. Shout out to the YouTube chat. This is from 7-6. It's like being in a tournament, but the final is guaranteed, meaning the mentality of like, hey, I don't really have to do anything great here. I've got a big final coming up. And so the question now is, and we talked about this last week in anticipation of the fights, do they still do the rematch? Is there still a desire to put on the rematch? The plan was October, beginning of Riyadh season, they'll have the rematch in Riyadh. Do you still want to see the Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney rematch after those 2 performances on Friday?
No.
Wow.
No, not at all. And for a number of reasons. A, Ryan lost. Let's kind of just get that out there for a second. Ryan's coming off a defeat, and Devin didn't look great. So you've got like there's 2 problems there. And I know I saw Devin get on the apron, and I saw him going back and forth with Ryan's brother saying what happened. Devin, you didn't look great either. So it's not as though both are going into this hot. Like, okay, wow, okay, yeah, no. And this is why sometimes you don't play with the boxing gods. I said it on last week's show. One of the favorites is going to lose. Obviously, I got it wrong. I thought maybe Tia would lose, but one of the favorites was bound to lose.
The biggest
this weekend.
One. The biggest favorite ended up.
The biggest favorite.
Yeah. By the way, so, I disagree. I would like to see it, and in fact, I'm actually kind of like weirdly more interested in it because I feel like both their backs are against the wall. You can't. It's going to be very hard for both of them to fight like that against each other. It's got to be kill or be killed. They are somewhat magic together. Maybe they bring out the best, maybe they bring out the worst. I don't know. But that first fight was tremendous. It was one of my fights of the year. I think Haney won, but he didn't win in the eyes of the public. Like that was like Conor Benn is more of a winner in the eyes of the public than Devin Haney right now, just because he went out on his shield, right? No one loves that style that we saw on Friday from Haney. And so I think, look, there's no title on the line. Who cares? What does it matter? Just let them fight.
Okay. If you are going to do it, can both of them just get to 140 and do this properly?
Yeah.
But neither of these guys are 147 guys. It doesn't like Haney's too physically big up top and his legs don't seem to carry the weight. So he needs to get back down to 140. And so does Ryan. Ryan's body looks like it could shed a few more pounds to get down to the 140 limit. These both are 140 guys. If we're going to do it at 140. And if we are going to do it in an arena. Do it in an arena with fight fans. Again, you can go to the Barclays, you can go T-Mobile in Las Vegas, you can go MSG. These guys will fill it out because there's animosity there. Their dads don't like each other. The promoters don't really like each other as well. Eddie would definitely jump on to the Devin Haney team, and obviously Oscar De La Hoya with Ryan Garcia.
I don't know where they stand, by the way. They don't seem to be in the best of standing right now. I'm talking
Eddie and Devin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, okay, that's my opinion. You say no, then who does Ryan fight and who does Haney fight?
If I'm Ryan and I've just been knocked down and beat by Rolly Romero, there's only one person I want to fight next.
Rematch?
It's Rolly Romero.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to show you. Okay, cool. You know, maybe me and Derek are not working out, and I was supposed to go to Eddie Reynoso, and Eddie Reynoso was with Canelo. Now I get a free run with Eddie Reynoso. If that's the excuse that Derek James isn't the guy, then let me go to Eddie. Let me go back to my old team, and let's run this back again. Let me get my mind right, because he spoke about the fact that still things outside the ring are causing him issues. Again, a year out's a year out, and that's a long time out the ring. So let's run this back quickly. Let's run this back in 4 or 5 months, and let's do it again. I think that will be a fight that's quite intriguing.
What about Haney?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have absolutely no idea. There's been a lot of talk about him and Tio for a while. Tio, I don't see a real dance partner for Tio at 140 pounds at the moment. He seems to be clear in sort of a world of his own. Maybe if Hitchens beats Kambosos, maybe Tio goes there. But for now, I'd love to see Tio and Devin. I mean, there's a lot of talk about these guys at 135. There's a lot of talk about these guys at 140. Why not do it? Devin is a 140 guy. So is Tio. That's a big fight to make. Those guys have a lot of history. I think Tio versus Devin could be a good one.
I like that one a lot. Tio saying after the fight, quote, "I'm Dora the Explorer and I'm looking for boots," referring to Ennis. That would be, I would imagine, at 147.
I think he's too small for boots. Like, looking at him against Arnold Barboza, and look, skills pay the bills, right? But Arnold Barboza looks so much bigger than him. And if Arnold Barboza is a lot bigger than you, then you're going to be dwarfed in the ring by Boots Ennis, who will have no rehydration cap. So Boots could balloon to whatever he wants to. And skill-wise, they're exactly the same. Boots, some might say, is more skillful than Teofimo. So I just feel like there could be a size problem there. I mean, I like the idea of Tio trying to conquer the world, and he's proven us wrong so many times against Loma and against Josh Taylor. But Boots is a whole different ballgame at 147. So I don't know, man. Sometimes, I don't know. You can be risky in calling out these fighters, and when it gets to it, you might have called out a bit too much. But I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I think Boots would be a big favorite in that one.
All right, let's talk about Saturday now. Who do you blame for the main event?
Do we have to?
I'm just wondering who you blame for that performance, because, look, Canelo became undisputed champion, and he took that fight to become undisputed so that the Crawford fight would be undisputed. I mean, technically, he didn't even have to take this fight. Crawford certainly hasn't fought since August of last year. Skull's going in there, opportunity of a lifetime. Nothing happens. It sounds like you're blaming Canelo. Why?
Because Canelo's the all-time great. Canelo's a pound-for-pounder. Canelo is universally recognized as the best 168-pounder in the world and has been for a few years now. And I get it, right? Okay, yeah, Skull was running around the ring. Do something about it. Do something about it. Throw more punches, maybe. Right? We're hearing 74 punches landed, or whoever stats you want to take. It's a low number. Do more. Like, do more. I was watching that thinking, what would Benavidez do to Skull? Honestly, I was thinking, what would Beterbiev do to Skull? David Moreau. What would those? Do you think Skull's running around the ring like that? They're cutting that ring off and they're taking his head off. And I'm like, Canelo needs to do more. But again, maybe he's like, I don't need to do more because I've got a September 12th fight lined up against Terence Crawford. I don't want to get injured. I don't want to risk.
Why should he risk anything? Why should he go for broke? Why put himself in danger?
Because
it was literally Crawford
because
flew from New York to Riyadh.
Yeah. You're getting paid to. You're getting paid to. There's fans that traveled. There were fans. I was there and Saudi. I spoke to some fans who had traveled from Mexico.
Yeah.
From Mexico to Saudi. I don't even want to know what the cost of that is. Entertain them. Entertain the fans that have traveled all the way from Mexico to watch you in Saudi Arabia. And it's at an ungodly time of 7 a.m. in Saudi. At least entertain them. At least give them something. Even if it's a case of, you know what, guys, I'm going to go hell for leather for 4 rounds. If I don't get rid of this kid, then we're just going to coast. Do that. He did nothing. And that's what's disappointing because you are Canelo's the biggest entertainer there is, right? I mean, I've been to Canelo's fights in Vegas and they're fantastic. And he gave us nothing. His first big fight away from America, and that's it. I'm super disappointed with Canelo.
His last stoppage was in 2021 against Caleb Plant. Since then, you had the loss to Bivol, the win over Golovkin decision, Ryder decision, Charlo decision, Munguia decision, Berlanga decision, William Skull decision. And it's not just like decisions. It's not just wars that go the distance. The knock seems to be that he's not going for it. Like he's not trying to put away his opponent. There's no killer instinct there. And maybe that all comes to a head with the Crawford fight. Maybe he's saving himself for that big showdown. I don't know. I'm just trying to convince myself there's so much money, there's so much attached to this fight. It's going to be on a huge platform, according to the rumors. It's going to be at Allegiant Stadium. We don't get a lot of stadium fights here in America. It's going to be on a massive Mexican Independence Day weekend. It's the first TKO boxing card. It's going to be on a huge weekend for that company because they've got UFC Noche the night before, or excuse me, the night after in Mexico. But there are some rumors they're going to move that to Las Vegas. Like if you're trying to set the table, it's not exactly the performance that you want. However, maybe the beauty is a lot of people didn't watch that one because it happened somewhat tucked away, middle of the night, not a lot of fanfare. No one really knows who William Skull is. In other words, do you think this will hurt whatever they're trying to do on September 12th? Or do you think because it was somewhat of a fight that was put together last minute to try to move away from the Jake Paul thing that everyone knows Canelo, this doesn't really hurt his stock in the end?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I don't think it hurts it as much as maybe some think. I think Canelo's been coasting in his last few fights. He's not been in any danger whatsoever. I think in front of him, September 12th is danger. And I think that brings out the best in Canelo. I still think he's going to look fantastic. Unless, yes, he's lost a step and he doesn't throw punches and bunches like he used to. But I think this fight will bring out the best of what's left in Canelo. What we saw against Skull is just a guy deciding to fight in first gear because he doesn't have to fight in second or third or fourth. When he fights Terence Crawford, he's going to have to go from first to sixth very quickly. And I expect him to do so. I think it's an incredible fight. And I almost feel like it will be forgotten, the Skull fight. Oh, it's already been forgotten. And I think fight fans have already moved on from it. As soon as we saw the face-off between Canelo and Crawford, it was almost like Skull who? And I think that's probably the way that many are looking at it, because this here is the biggest fight that can be made in boxing right now, and it's been made. And I think it's going to be incredible. I think it's going to sell out. I think it's going to do great numbers. And I expect to see a much, much better Canelo Alvarez than we've seen in recent fights. With all due respect to the opponents that he's been fighting recently, he goes into the ring such a big favorite, and he knows that as well. And they know it. I was at the Munguia fight, and there was a point in that Munguia fight when he knocked Munguia down in the fourth round. I'm telling you now, he could have knocked Munguia out in that fight, and he's just coasting. Against Crawford, he can't do that. So it's going to bring out the best in Canelo.
Well, maybe the silver lining is now, just, a few months ago, people were like, Canelo's too big. Crawford, 147, Canelo, 168. Maybe now people are like, you know what? He is beatable. He doesn't have it anymore. And, oh, by the way, you see them side by side in that face-off. He doesn't look that much bigger than Crawford. You know what I mean? And obviously Crawford is out of camp. He's probably going to get trimmer, but it doesn't seem like the big size discrepancy. It doesn't seem like Canelo fighting Dimitri Bivol, and that was at 175. It doesn't really even seem, at least with clothes on and all that, like Ben and Eubank. Eubank just seems like a bigger guy than Ben. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm curious from a business standpoint how it's all going to look. Dana White's going to be involved. He posted a picture of him standing. It's going to be surreal, man. Here are the arguably two of the biggest names in the sport, certainly the best American boxer, obviously the best Mexican boxer, and pound for pound, two top 10 guys, maybe even top 5 if you think that Canelo is top 5. And it's going to be Dana White in between them doing the face-offs, and it's going to be TKO and the UFC and WWE promoting it. It's going to be a surreal scene at Allegiant Stadium. You don't get a lot of stadium shows here in America. It's going to be fascinating to watch. So let's see. By the way, speaking of Jaime Munguia, he was able to exact some revenge on Bruno Saras. He got the victory there, so perhaps he can now move on from that shocking defeat back in December. A nice, solid performance for him, but
that's what it was. It was just a solid performance. I actually thought Saras boxed really well, and all the pressure was on Munguia. And yes, it is revenge, but it's kind of tinted with a bit of disappointment because Saras knocked him out last time.
Yeah.
And you kind of just, maybe scraped a points victory. But look, it's a win. He moves on. There'll be no trilogy, right? It'll be Sarashu in a couple of days. And Munguia sort of lives to fight another day in the 168-pound division where there are so many big names. And I wouldn't be surprised if Munguia finds himself on the undercard of this Canelo-Crawford fight against, I'm not quite sure who. I mean, maybe Caleb Plant, maybe someone else. So I think Munguia now will sort of ride the coattails of Canelo, especially now they've got the same trainer for the next couple of fights until Canelo hangs them up.
Well, that's another interesting component. I'm curious, who's going to be on this card? Are they just going to have TKO boxers? They've been quietly signing some guys. There's the likes of Callum Walsh. Are they just going to fill it with those types of guys and not fighters who are tied to any promotions? That remains to be seen. What about your boy Martin Bakole? Majority decision against one Efe Ajagba. Was that the performance that he needed trying to rebound? And I see his head trainer, Billy Nelson, still campaigning for that Joseph Parker fight. I don't know. I don't know if there's much demand for this.
Yeah, no, look, I was super, super disappointed with Martin Bakole. I'm what I'm saying now, I said to him, I saw Martin Bakole.
You told him you were disappointed? You walked up to him and said that?
Yeah.
God bless you.
I saw Martin, and he had a big smile, and I kind of embraced him. And you know what the first thing I did? I grabbed his belly. I went, Martin, look, this has to stop. And he was like, I know. Like, he's going to go straight into camp after this. I was like, Martin, look, he's got all the talent in the world, but it's difficult to take him serious when he comes in the ring 300 pounds. And that's kind of what it is. I mean, he was 284 pounds against Jared Anderson, and that was, I guess, maybe his career best performance, at least to an American audience. And he was 310 pounds against Joseph Parker. So he went into camp and lost only 11 pounds. I was like, dude, what was you doing in camp? I spoke to Billy Nelson as well, and Billy was upset, and they're saying they're going to get a nutritionist now to look at all his food and his diet because there's talent there. But unfortunately, if you're 300 pounds, it tells me you've not been taking training camp seriously. Maybe you're not taking this seriously. So I don't know. Look, I know that I think Turkey's spoken about him getting another big fight, another big opportunity. And I think that might be the last one if he doesn't perform, because he needs to come in around the 270 mark. And look, I get it. The heavyweight division is the land of the giants, but you don't have to be this big. You don't have to be this big. And he can't perform that big. He'll perform for a minute in a round or maybe sort of burn out in a whole round, but he can't give you 10 rounds of action. And that's the problem. He had all the tools to beat Efe Ajagba. And I think he's lucky to nick a draw. Very lucky. 2 defeats back-to-back would be a problem. A draw, and I think he's lucky. He needs to take it serious.
Yeah, I said majority decision. I meant majority draw.
Yes.
It wasn't great. And it just kind of, I don't know. It was sort of the theme of the weekend. Just a lot of fights that just sort of fell short. And then we turned our eyes to Sunday, to the man who is maybe the most sure thing. Yes, the palate cleanser, if you will. Look, if there's one guy that you can bet on to deliver time after time, it doesn't matter if it's happening at 5 a.m. or on a Sunday evening in Las Vegas, it's Naoya Inoue, the monster. The guy is unbelievable. And let's be honest, I don't think any of us thought that his fight against Ramon Cardenas would play out this way. Him getting dropped for just the second time in his career, there you see it. I mean, shocking stuff. And I think he was like something like a minus 10,000 favorite. I mean, it was just absolutely insane. And perhaps to a degree, he doesn't seem like the guy who would look past his opponent, but there is that fight that everyone has been talking about scheduled for September against MJ Akhmadaliev that everyone was hyped about. I don't know if he was looking past him. I don't know if it was not fighting at home. Who knows? But he turned that thing around and disposed of the man. He is so much fun to watch. All action, comes to kill his opponent and move on to dispose of him. And sometimes he's in he's in the pocket, he's in that phone booth, and it's kill or be killed. And we saw that, but to see him rebound and almost like hulk up and get back to 100% and then dispose of Ramon was pretty damn impressive. And so at least we were able to end the weekend on a high note with that great performance by, in my opinion, number 1 or number 2, 1A, 1B with Usyk, pound for pound in the world.
Yeah, difficult to argue with that, right? I'm very much, what have you done for me lately? And this guy has given me 6 fights in 2 years. 3 fights a year. No one's doing that. Nobody is doing it, especially not at that level, right? You get journeymen and sort of low-level guys coming up that are that busy. But world champions, like elite pound for pounders, they're not doing that. So I'm a massive fan of Inoue. And sometimes, look, if you are playing in the fire, you're going to get burnt. And he loves playing in that kind of crazy pocket where he's going toe-to-toe with guys where he doesn't need to, but he's entertaining us. And he got caught, yes. He kind of recomposed himself and said, okay, all right, this is a real fight now, right? He got up and Inoue does what Inoue does. I thought the referee was a bit early to jump in. I was looking at Roman Cardenas as the referee jumped in, and Ramon was like, oh, 1 second, what you doing? I'm still there. But the fact is, Inoue was kind of landing a few big shots clean as well. So maybe I could see why the referee said enough was enough. But I'm on the Inoue hype train. I think he's fantastic. I didn't like the fact, and you mentioned it there, that there is a fight planned against Akhmadaliev. I don't know why we do this.
Yes.
Like, why can't we just wait until after the fight and then announce the fight? Like, why are we doing this? If I'm Cardenas, I'm like, 1 second. You're that sure that you're going to run through me, that you're planning a fight in 5 months? Okay, we'll see. And that gives Cardenas another 10%. So, yeah, promoters, managers, broadcasters need to stop doing it. Just wait until a fight's over, then announce a fight. But Inoue came through the fire, and I think he's going to go back home and fight in Asia next time.
It's okay, in my opinion, if you say, hey, look, if he gets by this guy, this fight could be on the horizon. But when it feels like it's laid out too perfectly and there's a date attached and there's a venue attached and it's all signed, sealed, and delivered, it sort of takes away some of the magic, in my opinion. And then more often than not, we tend to see guys slip. We tend to see crazy things happen. When he got dropped, I was like, oh my God, I can't. This could be an all-time disaster weekend. And especially for Top Rank. You know what I mean? Like it would just be an absolute disaster, but he was able to figure it out. By the way, what kind of a chance do you give Akhmadaliev against him? Eddie has been saying forever that Inoue is ducking him, that he's afraid of him, all this craziness. And I get he was just trying to get the fight and hype up his guy, but like duck, scared, all these things just do not go with Naoya Inoue, in my opinion. I don't know the guy, just doesn't feel like that type of dude, if you ask me. What kind of shot do you give Akhmadaliev, who I do believe is 13-1 as a pro?
Yeah, look, he's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. But Inoue is not scared of no man. You don't get nicknamed the monster and then be scared of another man with 2 hands and 2 feet. I give Akhmadaliev maybe a 20% chance. The same I gave Stephen Fulton, and we saw how that played out. I think Inoue is just special. I really do. And I think size is the only thing that beats him. And I think he spoke about maybe I stay in the super bantamweight division because I can make it comfortably. I feel like there's a lot of pressure for him to go up to featherweight. Like, we just want to see more and more from him. Nick Ball, maybe. There's a lot of talk about him going up. I think that's the only thing that stops him. If he tries to jump through the weight classes, then he realizes these guys hit too hard and they can absorb my shots. Akhmadaliev's not a big guy. I was at Akhmadaliev's last fight in Monaco. He's a skillful fighter, but he's not on the same level as Inoue. As you say, Inoue could be, there's an argument to say he's pound for pound number 1. And that's how special he is. So I'd always pick Inoue, but it's an exciting fight.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to that. Another big month ahead if he's fighting in September, and a potential Ben Eubank rematch in September. July 12th, by the way, they did have the face-off with Hamza Shiraz and Edgar Berlanga, so it sounds like that fight is going to be on this New York City card, rumored for Central Park. Shakur Stevenson against William Zepeda as well. That'll be the day after the Taylor Serrano trilogy fight at Madison Square Garden. So obviously a lot to look forward to, despite the fact that some of the fights this weekend didn't quite live up to the hype. I'm looking forward to the return of Lee Wood. He has not fought in 19 months at the pride of Nottingham. It's myself and Lee Wood. That's pretty much it at this point. Certainly not Mr. Flat Earth himself. He's back at the Motor Point Arena, and he's going up against Anthony Kakachi, who has been on some kind of run, and I think a run that a lot of people did not expect to see out of the Northern Irishman. He is a guy who, when he fought Joe Cordina about a year ago, everyone thought Cordina would just roll right through him. That did not happen. He came back, won another fight, now defending his title, his IBO title, against Lee Wood on enemy territory at the Motor Point in Nottingham. It's not the world-famous city ground, but it's the next best thing. Lee Wood returning. That's a big Queensberry card right here on DAZN this Saturday, May 10th. Your thoughts on the return of Lee Wood, who actually told me earlier today that he probably has around 12 or so months left. 1 or 2 more fights. He would love for one of them to be at the home of Nottingham Forest. He's not holding his breath anymore, but not much left in the career. Feeling good, ready to get back in there, looking for a big homecoming. By the way, he's 11-1 in Nottingham.
Yeah, look, he's a great fighter. That one, I believe, is Mauricio Lara. I think they beat him, and then he got the revenge of Mauricio Lara a few months later. I like Lee a lot. I think I've said this. I've gone on record on saying in terms of sort of the best atmosphere, or at least one of the best atmospheres I've ever experienced, was when Lee Wood fought Michael Conlon, and you had all the Irish on one side and all the Nottingham Forest fans on the other, and it was like I was at a football match. It was incredible, and I think it's going to be something similar on Saturday as well. My concern for Lee is a few reasons. Number one, he's 36. Number two, he's been out the ring, as you say, 18, 19 months. The last time he fought was October 2023. And the biggest one is that he's going up in weight. Kakache is massive. Like, I can't, like, they're going to weigh in the same, and on Fight Night, Kakache's just going to go boom. He's going to be so much bigger than Lee Wood, and that's my concern. Kakache is coming off a couple of good victories. As you say, stopped Joe Cordina, which surprised everyone, and then beat up Josh Warrington. And Josh was like Lee, coming up from a smaller weight class. So this is a big ask, but I don't know what it is. But when the Nottingham Forest fans get behind Lee Wood, they just give him an extra 10%. It's a Rocky movie, so you never know. But I do think you have to make Kakache a slight favorite here. He's the man on form right now. He's the man that's been active. And as I say, he's the man that on the night is going to be so much bigger.
By the way, credit to him as the champ going to Nottingham. Obviously, it's a big deal when Lee Wood fights. He told me he sold around 4,000 tickets on his own. That's how big of a deal he is in Nottingham. So I am looking forward very much to his return. It's always a great scene. He walks out there with the scarf and the fans and the chants. It's a great time.
It's honestly, it's so like, I'm just so happy he's fighting. I've been so upset for him. He's been on the sidelines. I know there was an injury, but
yeah.
The fact is, he gave us 3 fights in 2023, free. So he's been active. He's a busy fighter, and he wants to stay busy. And he's been put on the sidelines for whatever reason. I don't know the politics behind it, but I'm happy that he's fighting again. And if he has got 12 months or so left, hopefully we can get 3 fights in the next 12 months. Win or lose on Saturday, I still want to see Lee Wood in fun fights because he always entertains us.
All right, Ade. Time now for everyone's favorite segment of the week. It is time for our parting shot, and I have to say
there isn't one.
I have to say it was hard.
Where have you found one? It's impossible.
It was hard, and I'm actually breaking from the routine. Usually, it's literally like the parting shot. Well, this time, like you said, there wasn't really one, so we've got to go back to the second round, main event, Friday, Times Square, just the knockdown. And it was a beautiful one. Credit to Rolly Romero.
This how desperate we've got.
Yeah, look at that. Boom, boom. The double left hook. Not bad. Yeah. You got to give him credit. It didn't stop the fight.
See, Ryan didn't look, he got hurt with that one. The second one, Ryan kind of took on the gloves. Ryan wasn't hurt. The way Ryan bounced back up, this is why I was surprised that we didn't get to see a more energetic Ryan. Obviously, everyone knows Rody hits like a truck. Like, Rody hits hard. I think even Javante said this. But I didn't look the way Ryan bounced up, he didn't look hurt. So, I'm super disappointed, man. I'm a big Ryan Garcia fan.
I love him.
I think he could be the face of the sport when Canelo parts in the next year and a half. But he just needs to kind of get his stuff together. Find a trainer, stick with a trainer, and just find out about yourself as well. Are you going to be crazy Ryan? Or are you going to be Ryan that looks like a Jehovah's Witness knocking on people's doors trying to sell Bibles? Who are you? I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is the crossroads. Like, after the Tank Davis fight, it was like, all right, rehydration clause. He had to cut a lot of weight, all this stuff, and he took the chance, and he wanted to be in the mix with these super fights. But now we find out who he is. This was a fight you were supposed to win. Everything was in your favor. Now we find out, are you going to be the guy who showed up on Friday just sort of ho-humming your way through fights, or are you the guy who fought Devin Haney a year ago? And so sometimes, obviously, fighters, love to be on winning streaks, but from our seats, sometimes this is even more interesting. Like, I love seeing if a fighter can bounce back, if he can build himself back up. What adjustments can he make? Does he need to make? Will he make? Does he have it in him? Does he want to do it? Is it hard to wake up when you're in, silk pajamas? All that stuff. He's got those silk pajamas. He pulled up in a Batmobile, for goodness sake, on Friday. So
I didn't like that.
You didn't like the Batmobile?
I didn't like any of that. I didn't like any of the entrances. No.
The taxi, the New York City taxi?
None of it.
Well, how did you want them to get there? They were in a hotel a few blocks away.
Maybe I'm a traditionalist. Like, just come. I don't know. Come in a team bus or something.
A team bus. Traditionalists. The fights were happening in the middle of Times Square, for goodness sake.
You know what it is. You know what it is. When you do this is my issue. When you do those entrances, and I'm fine with it, but can you deliver in the ring? Like, you're doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
Can you deliver in the ring? And that's all I care about when it's all said and done. And if you don't deliver in the ring, I'm then gonna go back and I'm gonna say, no, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, and just do your bread and butter, as they say over here, and just get it all right. Some of these guys, man, it's just, I'm still so annoyed. Honestly,
I could feel it. I could see the smoke coming out of your ears. Yeah. And by the way, ultimately, it's going to be up to Turki Al-Sheikh to decide, like, hey, if you're not gonna, we're gonna do all of this for you, but if you're not gonna deliver, maybe we won't do all of this for you. You know what I mean? He's the one that's paying essentially for all of this, and so.
And he's a boxing fan. I mean, and again, some people
couldn't be sitting there saying like, "Yo, this
he's a boxing fan." He must have been there thinking, "What is going on here?"
Yeah,
like what is happening here? Like, are you guys, especially considering he was ringside, as you say, 6 days prior, in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium watching a war. And he's probably thinking, okay, I got some boys here that are really going to deliver for me. And look, he wasn't going to get Ben Eubank because that came with so much, but he's probably thinking, we're going to get something special and nothing? Zero? From Friday and Saturday? No, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. I mean, he's making a lot of these fighters a lot of money, right? He's changed their lives, hence why a lot of them speak so highly of him. And not that they owe him anything, but surely there has to be a part of the boxer that's like, I just want to fight. I want to show you what I can do, you know. But again, a lot of these fighters are multimillionaires, and you do wonder about the hunger sometimes. Not of all fighters, but sometimes.
Well, if you ask me, the MVP of the weekend had to be 80-year-old Michael Buffer, who was there on Friday, got on the red eye, and was looking fresh as a daisy on Saturday in Riyadh. I mean, how does he do it? 80 years old?
I know.
This is unbelievable. I was tired just looking at him.
Incredible. He's incredible, and sometimes I always feel like, okay, the baton needs to be passed, right? I mean, he's done it for so long, and his name in the sport is solidified. But then when you hear him scream it out, let's get ready, you feel like, okay, no, I need more Michael Buffer. Like there's nothing like that. So no wonder he's on a red eye, because you need it, and a Canelo would need a let's get ready to rumble. Not that Canelo got rumbled, didn't he? Didn't do anything. Didn't do anything.
There was no
Canelo.
rumbling.
There was no rumbling whatsoever, but Michael Buffer is still so important when it comes to the sport of boxing.
Well, we had a great time here, and I think we always deliver, Ade. And so thank you very much to the great Conor Benn, the Destroyer, for stopping by. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing what he does next, if in fact that fight happens in September, which is in just 4 months' time. So they have to get back on that horse relatively quickly. Thank you to everyone who continues to support the show, whether it's watching it on DAZN, on the app, on YouTube, on the podcast platforms. If you're listening over there, please give us a thumbs up. Please continue to support. Please continue to love everything that we are doing, because we appreciate it, and it's an engine that we've got going here. And we need that fuel. We need that fuel. And of course, thank you very much to our good friends over at Final Destination Bloodlines, out May 16th.
Did we find out if I get tickets?
We're working on the tickets. We're working on the tickets.
What do you mean working on the ticket? 1 second.
We're efforting.
I asked you last week.
Yeah, we say this in the business.
Is it that hard to get me $10 tickets?
We're working on
$10 tickets?
Some might say you could afford your own tickets with the money that we're paying you here with Final Destination Bloodlines as a sponsor. Some might say, I don't say that. Some might say.
Clearly that's what you're saying, because the chat's not saying that. The chat's saying, get Addy some tickets.
Well, guess what? Chat, get... Jamie Vardy once said it. Look it up. I couldn't say. I'm not sure. I don't want to get in trouble. Ade, much love.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Again, thank you to Conor Benn. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to the team in the back. Enjoy the fights this weekend, my friends. We'll talk to you next week. Good night.